What is better than learning how to use some new brushes? I'm gonna tell you that those brushes are free. What's up guys, Lucas here. This channel is all about art and art related content, so if that is something that you like, consider subscribing. So I thought that it would be something really cool to show you guys how to use my free brushes. These fine water, fine bristle and wet acrylic brushes are part of my upcoming LP painting pack, and by the time that you watch this video they might already be out, but these three brushes are gonna be free forever for everyone that wants to download them in the link in the description down there. So just go download them. They are available for Procreate, Photoshop and for Clip Studio Paint, and let's have some fun. I'm gonna show you exactly how I use them to make paintings like this. These paintings are super fast. This was a half an hour painting that I'm gonna show you right here live, real time, how I painted with these three brushes, so that you never have the question of like what brush should I use for which part of the painting. So let's go and get started. Okay, so before we do the demo, I want to show you guys the brushes that you can get for free. My favorite out of the three of them is this LP wet acrylic that is very nice because it has some color variation. You can see every time that I make a new stroke, it gives me a little bit of color variation. It has a very nice natural texture that reminds me of wet acrylic. That is why I gave it this name. And it's also great because if you use it with high pressure, you can make very nice and clean masks that still feel more traditional than just coming and using like a regular, normal, boring round brush. So pretty good. Pretty interesting. I hope that you guys like this one. Is my favorite from the three of them. My second favorite that is also very versatile is this fine water, this one up here. And this one is great for sketching, is the one that I use for those sketches. So great if you use it small for sketching. It has just a tiny bit of texture when you use it small, but also if you want to use it bigger for bigger areas of your painting, it has a very nice creamy texture that I also think it is beautiful when you start painting with it. So that is the second favorite if you want something a bit more opaque. And for the people that really like a lot of texture, you can get this third one that is called fine bristle. And this one has a ton of texture, is very opaque. So for the people that want to have something that is a bit more bold, more exaggerated texture, and they really want to have opaque painting, you can use this one for all of that. So again, you can just go and download these ones in the link in the description. Download them before you watch this rest of the video, which is a demo on how to use them. So let's go and get started with the demo. So I have here on the left on Pinterest a lot of references of portraits, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna mix and match a few of them to come up with something quickly. Okay, something that we can do very fast is with the fine water establish the proportions of a portrait. You don't have to make it perfect by any means. We can always correct it. Something like this. Make a center line for the eyes. And a shape for the eyes. And for this initial part, what I'm thinking of is shadow shapes. I'm trying to picture how the shadow shapes would fall on this face. And then a mouth. All right, something like that. We can come up with some shape for the hair. I like stylized portraits. I don't like things very realistic. So I think I'm gonna just give some stylization to this guy. I don't even know if it's gonna be a woman or a dude. For now, we're just having fun. Okay, something like that. Now, the structure is a tiny bit broken, so let me just bring these guys down. Something that it's always very beneficial to do at the start of your painting is just flip it around and give it a liquify. I'm gonna zoom in and fix whatever, you know, whatever strikes you as just weird. There is always room to modify things later in the painting. But, you know, just something like that already helps. Awesome. So let's define some planes. Here there's a plane in the face. There's another plane here. And now that we have a line art, what I like to do is I usually like to make a group for each of my steps of my painting. So for example, this will be painting 1, demo 1, and this will be demo 2. Don't worry, we're not gonna take hopefully a long time doing this guy. I'm gonna put this guy in multiply mode, and I'm just gonna duplicate this whole thing. Remove the first one. And now I'm gonna change the brush and I'm gonna go for that wet acrylic. And I'm gonna make what is called an underpainting. And that is simply getting rid of the white of the canvas. It helps quite a lot to have some warm colors in your painting because they're gonna make your portrait feel a bit more alive. And what I like is also, even though the wet acrylic already has some color variation in it, you can also just manually change the color a tiny bit, and that way you will get even more color variation. Something like that. I'm going with very low opacity here. And there you go. This guy, let me just make sure that he's in multiply mode. And what I can do is, instead of black, I can make it something like red. Something like that. Awesome. So that is first step of that little portrait. Second step is going to be to put some of the shadows of this character. And you can do that with either the wet acrylic or also the water one. Both are very nice. But I think I'm gonna go with a wet acrylic because I like the square shape. And for this part, what you want to do is make sure that you stick to consistent shapes. And by the way, I think that I probably should share the reference that I'm using with you guys. You're gonna see that even though the reference is this one, I might end up with something very different. So you see, here's the reference, and I am just using it as, you know, information on the planes of the face, information on the angle, little things like that, but I'm not necessarily sticking with it because I find that just copying an image can be very boring. So I deviate from it whenever I want. So now with this wet acrylic, I'm going through the shadows of the painting and just selecting all of them. The eyes are very, very important, so I gotta make sure that they have a nice shape. Something like that. And something else that you want in this stage, and that's just a recommendation in general for good paintings, is you want to group your values. So you don't want to have shadows all over your painting in a bunch of little bunches. What you want to do is have it all in as few groups as possible. That is going to make your painting more attractive and more readable. So it's very important that you try to keep them unified. Okay, here we have a shadow for the chin that goes all the way to the lower part of the lips. Simple enough, right? Now this shadow of the nose joins the shadow of the cheek. And this whole ear is covered in shadow also. And also, let's not forget about the upper lip. Right here. I'm keeping away from the painting on purpose because I don't want to zoom in and start working about details or, I don't know, like little things right now. Right now it's just it's about the rough things in the painting. And in fact, this painting, even when I finish it, it's gonna still be rough enough that I shouldn't have the need to zoom in almost at all. So you see I'm deviating with the shape of the hair right now. I'm not following the reference very carefully. Just because I want to have maybe a bunch of hair right here. And maybe there is a shadow all the way there. Okay. Can you see how when you group your shadows, your painting becomes more graphic, more easy to read? That is what I'm looking for in this case. Okay. A bit of a weird shape for the mouth, so let me just flip this whole thing and change the shape of the mouth because she looks like she's scowling. I don't know. Not sure what the deal is, but I don't like the shape of the mouth right now. And the chin is way too big. So let me just cover it more in shadow so that I modify the drawing. There you go. Now it's a tiny bit better. Okay, so now let's duplicate the whole thing. And still I'm gonna continue using this wet acrylic to create a new layer, and I'm gonna paint some base colors. For this, you can use a low opacity for the brush and just go and put some nice skin colors. Of course, you know, skin colors because I'm painting a portrait, but it doesn't have to be skin colors. And I try to, you know, show a bit of the brushwork because that's the point of these brushes. Be able to show a tiny bit more of the artist through the work and not doing something that looks very artificial, very digital. I'm not sure that I like the color of the skin that I chose, so let me just change it to something else. Maybe a pink could be interesting. Maybe more saturated. Yeah, that looks interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one. And now I am going to put some color variation right there on the skin. Just gonna make it on a different layer just in case that I mess up. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sample this color, make it a little bit more red, and then put it in the spots that we know are a bit more red. Lips, nose, cheeks. And we can put a tiny bit of gray in this lower part of the face. And by gray, I don't mean gray exactly, I just mean a colder version of the skin colors. Maybe even some green, that also would help. All of this done with that wet acrylic. And I'm taking advantage that it is not completely opaque, to be able to leave a lot of layers of color behind my painting. Oh, and let's not forget about the ear. The ear can also get very, very warm. Something like that. Awesome. Now, we are getting to an interesting point with the painting. Yes, we are indeed. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna duplicate the whole thing again. Fuse these guys. And how about putting a bit more red or color variation inside the shadow? So for that, I'm gonna select the shape of the shadow. I'm gonna lock the transparency. That means I cannot paint outside the borders. And I'm just gonna put a tiny bit of red here and there. And maybe some blue to make it nice and interesting. Something like that. Awesome. There's still something weird with the eyes, but I will not worry about it just yet. I'll worry about it in a little bit. Okay, now it is looking interesting, but something that is happening right now is that all the skin is the same value. So we have just two layers. We have like the shadow right here that is completely opaque, and then we have the light that is all of this. I think that we need some halftones. And by halftones, I don't mean halftones like the dots of my brushes, like the comic taster of my brushes. I mean some middle tones between the light and the shadow. So let me just grab this thing, put it in multiply mode, and try to create some middle level values. And that is going to be, you know, for example, what you can see here in her cheekbone that is not completely shadow, but also not completely light. That is what I mean. So something like here, for example, maybe this whole plane. This plane right there. The far side of the nose. And if I put this in values, you can see the difference between before and now. I am adding more information. More value information. So you see, you can use parts of the reference and you don't have to make a copy. It just informs your reference. This could be any character. I'm just using the angle of her face and also the light direction. And for that, honestly, you can also use any of these type of tools that I have in here, where you can just grab a little figurine or even a 3D model online, and you get this same information that I'm getting from this reference, I could be getting from the figurine. I'm just using the reference because sometimes it's more convenient. Something in here, and also this side of the face. I'm gonna use the same wet acrylic to use as an eraser. All right. Looking interesting. Looking interesting. This could be a great moment for me to duplicate this thing. Let me just check the values for a moment. Make sure that it is doing what I want it to do. The shadow is a bit too dark, so I'm trying to get rid of it with the eraser. The values are very, very important in your painting. Awesome. Okay, looking good. Back to the color version, and I'm gonna duplicate the whole thing again, and now we can, I would dare say, maybe fuse the whole thing and do some overpaints. I think that is what we will do. Yes, yes indeed. Let's grab this whole thing, all the layers, fuse them. And now something great that we can do is, let me just flip it around and again give it a liquify. Filter, liquify. And let's fix whatever is not working. Whatever we have been doing through the whole process that we don't like it. There is still something weird on his mouth. His, her. I still haven't decided on the gender. I guess it's looking more like a guy than a girl because of the strong jaw. So maybe it is a guy. I'm not exactly sure. The girl in the reference also has a very strong jaw, so I guess that is why mine looks that way. Let's fix the eyes. They're a bit strange. The shape of the forehead. Symmetry of the face. And I don't know what the deal is gonna be with the nose, because right now it's really strange. But it's gonna be fine. We're gonna find a way. That is one of the things that I learned from one of my mentors that stuck with me forever, and that is trust the process. He always told me, trust the process. Whenever you're worried about the painting is not going to come out the way that you want it to come out, don't worry, just trust the process. All right. That is better. There were some things that I liked more from the previous one, but I guess this one is okay. Let me just flip it around. And now that we have this one completely fused in one single layer, this is a great moment for us to give it a try for the fine bristle brush. So I'm just gonna duplicate this thing and grab the fine bristle, which I told you that has a very thick texture, so it's great for when you want to, cover big areas. And we can, for example, create some texture for the hair. Create some sharp edges for light and shadow. Maybe even create some details for an eye. That could be interesting, having an eye. I can use it to clean the border of my painting. gonna have these very thick strokes. So this would be the type of brush that I would use for when my painting is really close to the finish line, and I just want to put some clear marks. Like the highlight would be a great thing for which to use this brush. Cleaning all of this part. Putting a highlight here. So you see, I'm using this brush to start cleaning the whole thing and make it more readable. Defining some shapes that I didn't have before defined. But now it is time. But also we can, of course, go back to the wet acrylic one and continue using it. For other areas. And there you go, guys. After a little bit of painting, this is the final result of the little sketch of a portrait. You can see here's the difference between how I left you guys before and just a little bit of polishing. So I just continued, you know, going with the brush on top of this thing until I had more defined, more clean shapes. And that is pretty much it. If you would want this to be even cleaner, then you just have to continue doing exactly the same thing. Just zooming in more and continue massaging all of those nice pixels in there. That's it for me, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video until the end. Check out the link on the description for you to get these brushes plus a bunch of bonuses extra down there, and start using these brushes. I hope that you have a lot of fun putting them in practice and that you enjoy something watching this video. I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.